What's up, guys? We're back with another Super 7 Ultimates ThunderCats review, taking a look at another LJN inspired figure, and we're taking a look at the one that I've been most interested in. We're taking a look at MUMM-RA the Ever Living because, well, MUMM-RA was like my favorite figure of last year, so I'm definitely interested in this one. Now, just like all the other figures, we still get that familiar Ultimate style packaging, so you got the trapezoidal shape, we get the MUMM-RA insignia on the front, you got the ThunderCats logo on the back of the slipcover. Pop that off, though, and you've got your figure there in the big window with its accessories, ThunderCats logo down there on the bottom, and then the back of the box gives us a nice shot of an LJN Colors MUMM-RA with the vintage toy sword and a little bit of a bio. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go. Out of the package, our Super 7 Ultimates LJN Toy Colors MUMM-RA the Ever Living. Definitely my most anticipated figure of this wave. A lot of that comes down to two main things. I really like the vintage figure. That's kind of the big reason. But also the regular Toy Colors version, which is, you know, overwhelmingly the same figure here, don't get me wrong, was my favorite figure last year. You know, it was my top figure on my my top 10 list. So I'm definitely excited to get more of the same. So let's see what this guy can do, see how he moves around. If you have that figure, you definitely know what this guy is capable of because it's really the same thing. So we've got a head that has slight bobble, but it really only swivels. You've got arms that go out at the shoulders, and just like that first figure, he does not have much range. That's one of like my big problems with this figure. Despite how much I enjoy it, it does have limited range at those arms for whatever reason. You've got swivel. I did have to heat this arm up to get it to work. I really thought I was just going to rip that arm off as soon as I started moving it, so something stopped him from being able to swivel that arm. We've got a bicep swivel. You've got your single jointed rotating elbow, basically 90 degrees. We've got our hinges. We've got rotation at the wrist. There's really good range on these wrists too, despite those cuffs. We've got our ab crunch, so he goes backwards. He goes forwards a slight bit, and then you've got a waist twist in there. Legs go out about this far total. He does, of course, have the skirt thing, so that's going to get in the way. There's a lot of stuff that gets in the way on this figure. Kick forward is more of the same. Kick backwards slightly, you got your thigh cut. We've got our single jointed rotating knees. There is no boot cut on this figure though. And then we've got some rocker, not a lot of rocker, and you've got hinges down at those ankles. So he is exactly the same. I mean, as far as articulation goes, you're not going to get anything new or different here if you've already got that original cartoon style Ultimates MUMM-RA. The visuals are, of course, where I'm most interested in this figure, and that, you know, that's pretty much par for the course when it comes to the line in general. I know what MUMM-RA can do as far as articulation, so there's no surprises here. What I'm interested in is this comparison, and there were some variations on MUMM-RA in the vintage line, just like with Lion-O. This is the darker version, so that's why the reds don't exactly match, but there was a light red too, so you have pretty consistent colors when it comes to that. I think for the most part, colors and overall build is really, really, really close. It's not perfect. There are some things that are slightly wrong just because of the fact that we've got so much parts reuse, but the spirit of it is there. And that's the thing that I think really is important, is that this was never meant to be a one-to-one copy. It was always a repaint wave, right? So you've got a very, very similar MUMM-RA here. I think the idea behind this definitely works. And this is clearly an LJN-inspired MUMM-RA. The color is really close. I think people are going to be happier with this color, you know, skin color, the green, compared to how some folks are really unhappy with the blue on the cartoon version. He was really blue. I personally like it. I think he looks cool that way, but it's, you know, it can be good or bad depending on what episode you're looking at. This is close enough. There is a lot about this guy that is really, really similar to, like the furry feet and the boots and the skirt piece and the twin snake emblem on the chest, I think is really close. That's one thing, of course, that I wasn't happy with on Lion-O because his was too good compared to the render. This is slightly dumbed down. It's more plain. It's a more simple Twin Snakes logo compared to the cartoon. So these match up pretty well. The wraps on the figure are, of course, exactly the same as the cartoon version because this is all reuse. So they don't necessarily match up, but that's one thing that I don't know that I really care about. The Ultimates version has more wraps. It's mummy wraps. I don't know if they have to be one-to-one, and we were never going to get a sculpted on torso with mummy wraps, so I'm not surprised there. One thing that's worth noting, the little nubbin on the back for the cape is gone here. So that doesn't exist. That's somehow, it's been a retool here or something, new torso or some sort of thing where they got rid of that because that's what held the cape on. This figure, of course, does not come with a cape because the vintage figure didn't either. There was a prototype that had a cape, but we don't get that here. And then we've got things like the bands that we have to talk about. So these are not one-to-one either. These are more in line. The gauntlet bands are more in line with the cartoon version. You've got your black band at the right elbow. Unfortunately, we don't have one at the left elbow, which we should have one. He should have, 2 and 2. And as far as I can tell, this is just a victim of reuse. So there should have been something newly tooled for that, I would imagine, to make this work. The cartoon version only has a right arm band, and the left arm is free. So they reuse the left arm, and we don't get this one. However, I do believe it was in the render, so it's another thing that I wish they had, kind of followed through on, because it does make him less accurate than the vintage figure. What I think will really bring this guy home, though, and really does it for me, is the head sculpt and the headdress. The headdress is slightly smaller than the vintage, and I'm pretty happy with that, because I think the vintage one is, I think the vintage one is arguably a little bit too big for MUMM-RA. This one fits him really well. The snakes maybe could tend to be a little bit larger, though, but the color looks good. And the head sculpt, I think, is just spot on. Whatever this emotion and this expression is supposed to be, anger, disgust in some ways almost, I think really comes through in this head sculpt. Just like with the Lion-O, they very much mirror the idea behind that vintage head sculpt. And this one looks really cool. Like, it's probably one of the things that I think of first when I think of MUMM-RA in the vintage line, is that goofy expression and his weird, jagged teeth. And they definitely came through on that. So, for the most part, I am really happy with him. There are some things that aren't correct. And just like with Lion-O, because of all the reuse, they aren't exactly one-to-one. I'm not too hung up on that. The only thing that truly bothers me on this figure is the fact that elbow arm band thing is missing, because it's such a small detail, but it throws off, sort of the comparison between the two. Otherwise, I do think he looks really good, and the spirit of this LJN MUMM-RA definitely comes through on the Ultimate side here. Now, as far as the accessories goes, this is very much the same kind of situation that I encountered with the Lion-O figure from this wave. He has a small amount of accessories. He has some stuff that, of course, wasn't included in the vintage line, but this is another thing. Do you want him to be exact one-to-one, or do you want him to have a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't present in the vintage line? It's kind of hard for me to really figure out where I fall in that discussion. I think what he comes with is pretty good. There's definitely an argument that he probably could have come with more. I'm still on the team that says we should have gotten the little light doodad. Even if it didn't do anything, I just think having that would have been fun. Beyond that, we do get some extra hands. So he's got these sort of style posy gripping hands on him in the box. You get a set of fists, and you get a set of actual gripping hands. So 4 extra hands, and then we get an extra head sculpt, and I really like this one. It's obviously very similar in spirit. Like, he's angry, he's grimacing, but his mouth is not open here, and the overall composition of the head is slightly different. The headdress, of course, being removable, you just pop it off and put it on this one, and then you've got a MUMM-RA with, a slightly different angry expression. So I do really like the option here of just having different versions, but, it's probably always going to be this one for me. We get 2 weapons with this guy, though, and that's really what I'm happy with, because I kind of made a point of talking about this in the other MUMM-RA review, is that some of that stuff I thought he should have come with. So he comes with his dagger. So this is just that little wavy dagger, black handle, silver blade, kind of unremarkable, but it's definitely, vintagey. The sword is what I truly care about, though. So you've got the black kind of like obsidian blade with the red handle, with the hilt that sort of spirals up the blade. And my big thing with the original, the cartoon version, was that this sword appears on the box, but it didn't come with the figure, because they were just using like reaction artwork for the Ultimate. So he finally gets his sword. I do really like this, and it's the one accessory that truly matters to me. Of course, there's going to be folks out there that think he probably should have come with a small unarticulated Malmut or something like that. But I'm perfectly happy in this instance with what he comes with. I don't think we need a bunch of extra stuff with this figure. The cape, it might be the only other thing to have been considered, because of the fact that there is a prototype out there that included a cape. So that would have been something cool to get, but of course it's not exactly vintage accurate. It was sort of vintage adjacent, I guess. So he comes with a decent array of accessories. Again, it's not a ton of stuff, but it's enough to change up his look, and he is still going to look very MUMM-RA-esque while being very different from the one we've already got on our shelves. So yeah, overall, really happy with this figure. Again, that comes from a place of really liking the first figure. It was my favorite figure of last year. What are the chances this wasn't going to be a good one for me? It's pretty slim, right? But he is a pretty solid figure. I think people are going to be happy with the colors on him. I think people are going to be happy with the overall size because, of course, you know, he's huge, he's a big boy, and he comes with some really solid accessories. It's not a lot, but that extra head sculpt is really good, and the dagger and the sword are, for me, what really, really sells this figure and what makes him as vintagey as possible, because that sword is always what I have displayed my vintage MUMM-RA with. It's never been anything different, and it's going to be the same case here. Of course, he's not perfect. It's not a one-to-one copy. There are things that are going to be different because this is a huge, huge reuse from the cartoon version. And then, of course, we are missing that armband, which is unfortunate. I don't like it. It's not the end of the world, but it's one of those things that, like, it also shouldn't have happened. So that's going to do it for this look at the Super 7 Ultimates ThunderCats LJN Toy Color MUMM-RA the Ever Living. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.